Hello everybody and welcome to this week's video. You're speaking with McDonald from Trade with Precision. Thank you very much for joining us for this week's equity markets commentary. Well, we finally got that sell-off that I was expecting there on the Russell. I was expecting it the week before, it didn't happen. Then last week, still expecting that, although being more cautiously bullish in terms of this could have run up a little bit further before selling off. And what we ended up doing was we just ran up, literally, if we come and look at the daily chart, we got up to 810. Really testing the upper ranges of the resistance zone, and then we've now come right back down and had a decent sell-off as we were expecting. Coming and looking at this monthly chart, we've really just come up into this resistance now, and you can, really on a monthly basis, we tested 800 and we came right off it. So now we're looking for a bit more of a pullback, and one of the things we're looking for was this monthly chart pullback back down towards, perhaps down towards these averages. So a reasonable potential sell-off based on the monthly. If we just come and look at the weekly, sorry, the picture is not quite so dramatic. So I really put this as a sensible range where I'm looking for the sell-off to be around about 740 is my first point where I'm expecting some support to be found, and that's where I think would be a really sensible sell-off where I'd start to get bullish again, and the lower end of that range would be down around 700. So around about 740 to 700, which means we've got, on my calculations, about a 30 to 70 point further sell-off there on the Russell coming up over the coming weeks. So that's what I think will be a sensible, healthy pullback, and then really set us up nicely to be continuing on. There's also a bit of a benefit here that the Russell's got over the others. And if we just come and have a look, for example, at the Dow. Now the Dow was propped up last week by various results. So for example, General Electric up 7% alone on Friday. So General Electric being up like that is really what has held the Dow up. And you can see that the Dow was up there on Friday when pretty much everything else was down across the board. And we're going to have a look at those in a minute. So when I say it puts it in good stead, because the Dow is due a sell-off as well, and now the Russell's already had a bit of one. I think that it'll sell off less dramatically now. My expectation is that the Dow will have to play catch-up, because all stocks are due a sell-off, not just small caps, and we're seeing it on the S&P to an extent, and also on the Nasdaq, whereas the Dow is up. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for the shorter term. In the very short term, i.e. on Friday, it made sense that that General Electric held it up. I think earlier on in the week IBM held it up. But what we're now looking for is a bit of a sell-off and a bit of a catch-up game there from the Dow. So I'm expecting the Dow to be catching up and selling off this week. Coming and just looking at some of the other indices here, we've got the S&P. We sold off for a couple of days and then tried to have a bit of a rally. Still closed with a bearish candle there on the S&P. And then coming right down here to the Nasdaq, we can see again had 2 good days of sell-off and again tried to rally, and then we closed right down low. And coming looking at the Nasdaq here, really looking for a pullback again back into these averages. It could be around about 2220. It could really be as low as 2070. Looking for a decent pullback there. Again, just to form a base and a platform for stocks to launch their next wave up is really what I'm looking for. So coming back to the Russell and tying things together here, I am expecting more of a sell-off here, back into the region of 740 to 700. Giving us a pretty decent sell-off. However, I'm expecting it at a slightly slower pace than we had last week. I think that prices will come down. Remember as well that what a trend looks like, we can make a little bit of a rally to make a lower high before continuing down to make a lower low. I expect it will be that kind of movement. I don't expect it will be a big major sell-off. In fact, if we come back here, let's come on a daily chart and just look at the last time we sold off back in here. We moved down, we came up, we moved down, we came up, we moved down, we came up. And eventually, we failed to make lower lows and we pushed back up and made higher highs. So if we just look at this point here, we failed to break the previous low, and then at this point here we broke up and broke through the previous high, and that's when we pushed back into uptrend. I'm expecting a similar kind of thing now. Similar kind of thing whereby we'll probably get a rally, therefore we could even have an up week this week if this kind of scenario plays out. But I'm expecting prices to still continue to sell off over the coming days and weeks until we get down around these levels, base out, and continue on again. Now, when I say base out, that could literally be right down there for a day or two before continuing up, or it could be a lot longer period like it was the last time we had that sell-off. We will assess the charts as it gets down there to really make a decision as to whether this is starting to look bullish or whether it's likely to stay there for quite some time. As it is right now, I am certainly bearish in the short term. I wouldn't be taking major swing trade short positions, that is any short position I'm looking to be in for weeks, simply because I expect it to trend down there if I'm looking for up weeks and down weeks within that move lower. However, I am bearish. I do expect price will pull back down to that. Over the coming weeks, I do expect we'll come down and test those levels. Therefore, I will remain bearish in the shorter term. However, I will switch to bullish as soon as I start to see that basing out, because I still remain longer term bullish. In the longer term for 2011, I'm very bullish on stocks. This is just a pullback which was required, and certainly I'd encourage everybody to look past any negative press which might start being reported around market sell-offs. So often we see the market sell off, and a little bit of bad press that might have been ignored back through here as markets were going up suddenly seems a whole lot worse when markets are going down, and then there tends to be a little bit more panicking amongst the general public. So I will be looking to ignore that kind of news unless there was anything major, like another major bankruptcy. We're talking an Enron or a Lehman Brothers type disaster, that kind of thing. Without having a crystal ball, we do not know if that will happen. So I'm not expecting that kind of thing to happen. I'm just saying if it did, that could certainly change my mind quite quickly. But in the shorter term, any little bit of bad information on a particular stock or any little bit of bad economic news isn't going to scare me into thinking this is a bear market. I'm not going to think that this is a high. I'm sticking with my guns here that this is a longer term bull market. The market looks strong. In the short term, we're likely to sell off, and I will be waiting patiently now for a point where this turns around and where I can position myself long again for the longer term.